Dear visitors of the Berry Business Forum, we will now continue with a new panel, and now I will announce the participants of this panel. A panel called New Varieties of Planting Material, Rights and Obligations, at which guests will speak in front of the Forestry company, Alexandra Cojocandru, in front of the company, the firm Floriva, DOO, Mr. Zoran Radovanović will speak, and after that we will also be addressed by Mrs. Lidija from the Popović and Partners Law Office. Of course, Mr. Jovan Vujović in front of the Plant Protection Department of the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Water Management of the Republic of Serbia. The moderator of this panel will be Mr. Goran Eror in front of Vojvodina Radio and Television. Enjoy and thank you. Thank you very much for this great introduction, ladies and gentlemen, dear representatives of the Ministry of Agriculture, respected representatives of the Embassy of the Kingdom of the Netherlands in Serbia, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, respected agriculture producers. As a part or segment of agricultural production that is very much our future and great opportunity not only for our agriculture in general but also for the processing capacities of the people who deal with that segment of production. As my dear colleague said, today we have an opportunity to discuss the topic of a new variety of planting material, rights and obligations. And when we talk about it, what logically arises as the question is, what is the potential of berries? How to choose quality seedlings? How and in what way to protect the rights of plant breeders, materials, and what all obligation producers must undertake when using certified and protected planting material. These are the topics we will talk about today, and given the fact that this is a topic that is specific in many ways, I think we have a really great panelist for that topic. Can we greet our participants in the first panel in a way with a round of applause? The family company Floriva from Ivanjica was created with the aim of improving the production of wild strawberries, strawberry fruit seedlings, organizing a cooperative for the purchase of processing products and selling them on the domestic and foreign markets, and therefore managing the knowledge and experience of the Radovanović family and improving throughout 3 generations. This company from Ivanjica is successfully growing and developing 37 varieties of berries and over 1,004,000 seedlings per year. Now, my question to you, Mr. Radovanović, is how is that famous high-quality planting material produced and which varieties are most common in our area?
Sam Zoran Radovanović iz sela Radalje u opštini Ivanjica. Radimo poslovno na ovom tržištu.
I wish you a good day. We are doing business in this market of Serbia, which is very specific. And what is important for all of us is that we do our work, that we do it well and with quality. When it comes to planting material, berries, if it is any other type of fruit of all, we know that certified planting material means. I would just emphasize that it is planting material with the highest potential, but that potential, whether it will be utilized depends on many factors. Only the production of planting material will be explained by the breeders themselves and maybe the best or maybe some experts from the institute. But practically, it should be put into practice. That means bringing it closer to the producers. Some varieties will be good and high quality in laboratory conditions with some testing. However, when it comes to the producer's field, we as producers work on the creation and selection of new varieties together with various institutions and breeders from all over the world. In 2009, we had the opportunity in cooperation with certified Dutch house to establish cooperation related to raspberry planting materials, specifically Willamette. Well, here I will briefly tell you the story of how that process continues. In 1965, the first Willamette came to Serbia. Until then, two varieties of Trnavka and Valjevka were produced. In 1965, he came to Willamette Ivanjica with a few more varieties and settled in our climate. In 1972, he came to Arilje, and we know that Arilje is one of the largest producers of raspberries together with Ivanjica, and planting material was imported during the year. When there were sanctions, we know that they had a problem with the import of that healthy planting material, and the good planting material was lost somewhere, and even today there is that good planting material that is 50 years old. However, we have come to a situation where we are looking for healthy Willamette planting material and it's not available anywhere in the world. What is the specific process for renewing that varieties to find good quality seedlings of the original Willamette, as the producers popularly call it? So it went through a complete process. First, identification. Is it real Willamette? Means whether it has all these morphological characteristics. Then the process of thermotherapy is proven, and in this way that healthy potential planting material that can bring the highest yields is obtained. In the same way, we work with new varieties that are created. They are created first, otherwise those varieties are examined for their characteristics, and then we work on the process of cleaning the seedlings, that is, bringing them to the most ideal state of health, which can give the highest yield, that is, that has the highest potential for producers, which is exactly the goal. So it's a complex process that takes a long time. Specifically for raspberries, it takes between 6 and 12 years to get a new variety, quite a long period of time. Just how many breeders are there, for example plums or walnuts? How many years do they need to get a new variety? And when someone invests time, he invested his money and knowledge and experience. It all costs. And then we get to breeders' rights. And when we came to the selection rights, I think it's a great opportunity to talk about that. Namely, there is a saying that says that once in your life you need a doctor, a policeman, a lawyer, a priest, but every day, 3 times a day, you need a farmer. However, in all probability, it's not quite. Mrs. Lidija Derić is a lawyer by profession, and we can say that it's quite important in this segment of the business. Let's say the protection of breeders' rights is to certainly take into account those specific regulations that are current and in force, and therefore I think that maybe it is a good thing to share information with those present on how the current regulations enable the protection of breeders' rights. What are all the regulations and possible protection producers? Good day, everyone. I am a lawyer, but I am also a patent attorney, and I can tell you that this is the area of intellectual property, and those who deal with it, they know little about the matter of breeders' rights. And when a new variety is created that has good qualities, who is this one is placed on the market? Like any other intellectual property right, it must be registered like a patent or a trademark. Serbia is in a good position because it has adopted regulations and applies regulations in the registration process. And there is excellent cooperation with the Plant Protection Administration, where requests are submitted for the protection of breeders' rights. Registration is necessary, and this registration has territorial effect. We also do protection in the region.
the leaders there, we have the practice, we have the structure of the bodies that have to implement those regulations. So that's a great advantage, so let's use it. So Jovan will maybe say more about the procedure of registration, and now I'm going to mention that according to the law on protection of the right on the plant breeders' protection, when the right of a plant breeder is violated, the law says that it has to file charges for that. Well, it's easy to say, but
tužba uvek svrsishodna. Postoji drugi niz propisa koje vi, ako radite sve u skladu sa zakonom i poznajete u svojoj svakodnevnoj praksi.
Those regulations in your practice, you know about it. So we have one example. A huge market has been opened after the COVID, and every market player complied with that. So those who are not breeders, but only the natural persons, can simply just sell the seedlings or plant material, and that you do not know what's in it. So the end user is quite threatened with that. And we have the discipline there. So the law on the plant health, well, every nursery has to be registered in the register. So Jovan will say something about how it is important on a daily basis. So there's a law on fruits and hops, and when we as lawyers, for example, we, on behalf of our breeders, we send the notice, and they are going, then their nursery or a particular plant will be protected. Now we have, for example, certain sites with a great offers, and now we have the inspections like phytosanitary and agricultural inspections. In other fields of intellectual property rights, we have a great operation with a market inspection. It is easier to work with other brands, and maybe it's more difficult and more delicate with the varieties. But the regulations exist, and the filing of reports to the inspections or phytosanitary reports based on the irregularities in the operation. Maybe that particular material does not exist. Maybe it is purchased, but we don't know the source of it. So the reporting about that will mean not only to the breeders, but also to end users who are damaged with the purchase of the not tested seedlings. So what you buy, it's necessary that you know what you buy. And it is supported by some other regulations that have to be fulfilled. For now, that will be all from me, and I hope that Jovan will say something about the registration. And we do that as well, but I spoke more about the protection in the practice, so when you already have the registered right.
Thank you, Ms. Derić. But Mr. Vujović, you come from the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Water Management, or more precisely from Plant Protection Directorate. And you are involved in plant breeder protection. So can you please tell us what does this plant breeders protection really imply? Good morning, everybody. I come from the Agricultural Ministry, from the Plant Protection Directorate for the protection of the plant varieties, and among other things, we deal with the protection of breeders. I had a similar presentation several years ago at the very business forum in this very room. Namely, it seems to me that when it comes to the intellectual property rights protection, is not a familiar area for all. It's about patents, copyrights, brand protection, integral circuits protection. There is the intellectual creation that needs to be protected in every area of human life. So you can protect your work in order to have the financial gain from what you have invented, from what you have created. And as regards the plant varieties as a potential that can bring you financial gain later on, since the production and the marketing will start. So with that, the protection became necessary. Without going into detail, I would like to say that most advanced countries came up with this idea in 1961 in Geneva. An organization, an international organization was organized, UPO, probably you have heard for this it's International Union for the Protection of New Plant Varieties. And ever since then, the number of the countries joining in this organization slowly grew, and the protection of the new plant varieties got better. So intellectual property is a non-material element that materializes later on through the productive material. And Serbia became a member of this organization in 2013. So this year we celebrate the 10th anniversary, and it was Serbia also ratified the relevant convention, and thus Serbian government committed to fulfill the obligation under this convention regulating this quite specific area. So this is a new, completely independent system, not connected with other property rights, and as such, it exists completely independently from other intellectual property rights. Of course, there are some similarities, but the protection of breeders is quite unique and quite specific. Well, we talked about legislation, as Ms. Derić from the law firm with which we have a very good cooperation for many years now. And this law firm is a client submitting the largest number of applications for protection of the breeders' rights. So we have the law from 29 that was amended in 2011, and that law was the basis for developing of the system. And then we had the UPO Convention, and we have the building of capacity. And now, within the Agricultural Ministry, within the Plant Protection Directorate, we now have Gordana, and I am the manager of this small unit. There is a third person as well. but it's not enough for the type of work that is needed in this area. But the system functions very well, and it is recognized as such in the international context as well. We have many rule books regulating all the segments in the area, and everything you can. Everything is available on our website. You can see the instructions, the procedures, everything. Thank you, Mr. Vujović. We will talk about the procedure later on. But we have here with us Mr. Alexander Cojocandru from the Fall Creek company producing berries and blueberries specifically. So blueberry plantations in the world are really successful, but in Serbia the harvests are not that successful. So what varieties are present in Serbia?
It's been an honor to be here. A little bit about myself. I recently started with Fall Creek. My background is coming from farming. In the last 13 years, I spent growing blueberries, raspberries, and strawberries in Great Britain. I think all the topics has been covered by my colleagues here on the panel. I'd just like to say a few points about plant. Blueberry has a very complex genetics, and it can go very, very wrong or very good very easily. That's why it's important to have a good breeder with experience, with a lot of years. And this is what we do first of all at Fall Creek. We have our research and development department, which is, as has been mentioned before, it takes tens of years to get the right plant, to get a final product. The other thing is people tend to buy cheap because they think, oh, I buy the same plant due from maybe non-certified or certified somehow. But this in year will reflect, and you will see this. You won't see it in the first 2-3 years. You'll see it within 3 or 4 or 5 years, and then it's irreversible. And I've seen that. I've seen plantations where just randomly the plants are just dying. Now Serbia is a new territory. Yesterday I landed. I managed to see only 2 growers. The feedback was positive, and whatever I've seen, to be honest, it was state of the art. I've been to Berikor, and I visited another grower in Schumann. I don't know the location. I'm sorry about that. I'm not familiarized. Like I said, I started 3 weeks ago. I don't know the market, and but I think you have as a territory, you have the possibility and the capability to grow good berries and good plants here. Your environment and the climate is allowing you to do that. I'm here to share my experience, and my role is to make sure the grower and the farmer is choosing the right variety for the right climate.
Which sorts you have here in Serbia?
Sorry?
Sorts in Serbia, your
Here is very Duke and Draper, I could say so far, but this is from open catalog, because we do have 3, we divide it in 3 categories. We have open catalog, we have the latest Fall Creek variety, Fall Creek collection, and we have the Sequoia as well, which is the premium, I would say, the premium product. I can see, and with these 2 people I just met yesterday, I see that they are open to try the new varieties and the new trials, because this is the trend. It's not about, I don't know, each country functions differently. But as an advice, I think you should, Serbia, Romania, or Balkans, this part of the globe, I think you should understand a bit the macroeconomical situation. It's just not because how will be everybody, or if Serbia is good to produce Draper only and Duke only, of course, at the end it's the grower choice, but as an advice, it's always good to see the macroeconomical, and to see, with blueberries you need to see 4 or 5 years in advance, because you don't plant this year and you expect next year to, it takes time to grow and to have productivity.
Thank you so much. Gospodin Radovanoviću, kako se vrši testiranje novih sorti? Dakle, kakva je...
What about the testing of new varieties? What is the process? Shortly, I can say that maybe the manager of the Čačak Institute, Darko, may answer the best. But what we do, we test new varieties. So as we are frontman, we introduce new varieties, but to introduce a new variety in a country, it's really a complex process. Not every variety that showed a good yield in Italy or somewhere else can be equally successful in Serbia. So what we do, we have cooperation with the relevant companies from all over the world, and together with the Belgrade University, we perform official testing, and maximum 200 varieties can be imported for testing purposes. So testing is not done within 1 year only. It takes 3 years, but minimum 2 years. Because raspberry yields fruit in the 2nd year already. So with several producers, we can start growing raspberries. The old law provided that each variety should be tested in 3 different locations. But now variety registration procedure has been simplified. It needs to you only need to prove that a variety would be cost-effective. So we tested 12 varieties of raspberry last year, and 10 were discarded right away because they were sensitive to our climate conditions, or had thorns or non-specific shape of fruit. But all these varieties are potentially good, and we continue testing, and in the 3rd year of testing we introduce further sites in Mačva, in Kragujevac, in Leskovac, so as to see how they will behave in the changed climate conditions. But Gianluca Savini visited us a while ago. He's the manager of the largest cooperative for soft fruit in Europe. Together with them, we are testing 2 varieties. The variety is wonderful, really large, resistant to the climate conditions and the soil pollution. And everything is wonderful, but there is a problem. 10 to 20% of how can you say, twin products. It's automatically second class. So you do not perform high-tech production, but extensive production. Why? We want to say what a variety can sustain, can endure, because influences are different. The climate and not performance of the producers, because many producers do not know a lot of things or forget about them. And that's where we come in. We have our production, we have our experience, and so we share the technology of production with the producers. So minimum 3 years of testing, and then having the variety registered, and the procedure is not really complicated, because it's about licensed varieties mostly. So we complete the circle and have the planting material on the market. But it is really important to test varieties in our climate conditions on several sites in order to see what a variety really can do. Otherwise, the risk could be huge, because later on it can show a lot of shortcomings, and this is the best way to introduce new varieties on the market, and market demands new varieties.
Thank you, Mr. Radovanović. Mrs. Derić, can you tell us, in your practice, what are the examples of illegally
Ja bih se nadovezala na ovo što je
reproduced plants? I would just add to what Zoran said, as well as breeders and the institutes that deal with the work in order to create one variety. The grain market as well adjusted to what is demanded. Today, through internet and through various platforms, and by searching the internet, you can see what's topical at the moment. And just to say, those traders, maybe they are not the farmers or producers of the illegally reproduced material. They can buy the certified material and reproduce it illegally, because it is this shouldn't be done, because it is prohibited, and it's one of the reasons for filing a lawsuit or claims. So it can be said that, for example, that plant material is offered through internet, and maybe that's not the particular variety that is offered, but it is some other plants. So through some examinations, through investigation, we have to check that out, and in collaboration with phytosanitary inspection in collecting that material, and collaboration with agricultural inspection would be of great importance. But as a first step, for example, when we want to buy something and it is the plants or seedling material, it would be very useful to anyone, including me, that phyto register is available on the internet. It is public according to the law on the plant protection, but I have to, for example, call the authorized inspector and ask him about what I saw on the internet, and they say, they are not registered, they are not in our registration. So some other regulations will be applied here that will be for everyone, not only for the breeders, and some other procedures will be initiated so that that illegal trade is suppressed. That's a program of the government since recently. Okay, we can speak about this for a long time, what all these players that are threatened and damaged by this. Maybe the right of the breeder is violated by this, but here we do not have only the reproduction of only one variety. Maybe they do. They reproduce some other varieties, and you're not aware of that. So the registers FITO register would be of great importance. Then the register of the rights of the breeders is available on the Ministry of Agriculture website. So, for example, if you want to buy something, the advice would be to check out the person that you buy the plant from. If you can check that before you buy the seedlings, before you buy the planting material, it would be the best. Unfortunately, if you buy something that was marked in a wrong way, that would be sanctioned, that will make a great damage to the breeder, because you think that certain variety is not good, but you didn't buy the variety that you think that you bought. So the private interest institute has been violated here. The varieties in the States have been protected as a patent. So there is an important scientific paper about that. So that is important, because the creator has to enjoy his rights. So it's important. So when you buy something, you have to know that that person has reproduced it illegally, or he sells you really a certified material. And what happens, just to make a digression, so a person who buys planting material, seedlings, and it turns out that it is not the variety that he bought, what he can do? So what's your advice would be to start the court proceeding, or maybe next time to be more cautious when he purchases seedlings? Yes, if the problem occurs, he would refer to the persons who are authorized for or have the rights of a breeder. But in a court proceeding, there are some uneven practices. I, as a lawyer, can say that there are some other material evidence that can be used to prove that that is not what it is. How? Because you called someone and that person tell you that it is specific variety, but it turns out it is not that variety, and you are a party in the proceeding, interested for this, and that can be used, that element can be used in the court proceeding. But development of the methodology that would contribute to easier comparison of the purchased disputable seedlings, so-called original, to the standard plant, and that genuine plant had to be deposited with the certain institute. And these two materials should be compared and to establish what is valid and used in the court. And it's the matter of our profession. And the court would use here the expert's opinion, the court expert's opinion. And what I would like to say, and it is not used sufficiently in practice, and that when the claim would be filed, you of course would add to this lawsuit the request for the expert's opinion. But I just don't want to burden you with all these details, but when you become part of the litigation, all these things try to be resolved so that we find a solution as soon as possible. I heard that even the Dutch proceedings, court proceedings last for 7 years. So when you hear that, you feel discouraged to file the lawsuit. But when the judgment has been reached, you can be satisfied, but it takes a lot of time. Sometimes it can be easy and simpler, but it includes a different approach to this subject matter. I appeal to discipline in operation and implementation of the procedures that include some smaller sanctions, like for some economic or commercial offense, because it will be a lesson. Although the sanctions for the natural persons are really small, they look as if they do not have any effect. But if we apply these sanctions to the nurseries, at least they represent themselves as nurseries, then there are a lot of them, then a certain discipline would be introduced and the law would be respected. That's my advice. Of course, not enter the litigation so easily, but use some more like simpler procedures that last shorter. Mr. Vujović, what are the conditions that one breeder should fulfill in order to protect the right of his varieties, and what is the procedure? Okay, so when someone, a generator, created a new variety, first as an intellectual property, it's not mandatory to be protected. In the Republic of Serbia and in many other countries throughout the world, usually the registration procedure is obligatory as a national variety, but intellectual property is your private right. No one imposes on you the obligation to protect it. That's your freedom of choice, or the freedom of choice of the person who created that variety. If you do not protect that variety, it is available to anyone, so anyone can recreate it. So let's get back to the conditions. So the law on the protection of the plant breeders' rights regulates the procedures, among other things, the procedure necessary for the protection of the varieties. So it's important the novelty of the variety. The old varieties cannot be protected. They are not the subject matter of the protection of plant breeders' rights. That's according to the convention. So all the members to the EOPIV that's apply to all of them. So what does it mean, new variety? I mean, some innovative variety. So it is in Serbia. So it is the variety that has not been commercialized more than 1 year. So it was not sold for that period of time. For the foreign varieties, it's 4 years. With the fruits and it is 6 years. If it is a foreign variety, you can protect the variety, which is not older than 6 years. For example, the procedure of establishing the novelty of the variety includes the technical investigation of or examination of the variety that is performed with the DUS test. Those are the tests used for establishing the differences or stability of certain variety, or this ID of a variety compared to some production characteristics. So this has to be according to certain technical guidance. So there are many technical characteristics that are identified or established in comparison with other varieties. So there can be 30 to 40 traits or characteristics that are strictly prescribed with certain ways of assessment and so on. DUS test, so it is distinct uniforming stability. The variety has to differ from the all existing varieties. When we say different, so there are many varieties that are quite similar, but in order to be protected, the variety has to differ from others, at least at one important characteristic. When it comes to uniformity, it's important in the repeated cycles of uniformity. It's important that the different expression of off-types or lines hasn't to be expressed, so that variety has to differ from other units within that variety. So that is the variety's cleanness and the stability. That's through the repeated cycles of reproduction, the variety maintains its characteristics. Then the name of the variety, that's important characteristic, because variety is linked to the name. So even after the period of protection, which lasts up to 25 years, that name remain linked to that variety. So these are administrative and technical things related to the examination of the variety that is implemented, as I already mentioned, by our group within the administration or department for the plant protection. If that variety has been developed in Serbia, and if there is dust test, if we have reference varieties here, if we do not have the reference material, this will be tested somewhere abroad. So you have to know that, for example, with the fruits and wine, grapes, so it's important. So in both cases, a dust test is used. So if a foreign variety is subject matter, then we, for example, sent the official request to the country where the dust test was performed, and we get the official findings, which is added to other set of documentation in the proceedings. And so when all conditions are met and the variety is enrolled or registered in the register of submitted applications, which is available 24 hours, 7 days a week on our website, and you can find all information, for example, who applied, when that application was filed, and etc. And what's important in case that it is necessary to respond to it, because just to remind you, it is an intellectual property, and it can happen that, for example, the variety which is not created by him try to protect, but we have to assess that and establish that. But there's also the possibility that someone can call upon us and file a complaint about that. So if there is a test here, that's an administrative procedure which can be performed in a relatively short period of time of 2 months. So the varieties are registered in the register of the protected varieties, and there are all important data, like name of the variety, the period, the protection is valid, and which is important, if it is a foreign variety, you have the, for example, the persons or authorities that you can address in order to ask if you want to introduce that variety into your production. So the protection of the plant breeders is not mandatory, that's an alternative. And that's your option, meaning the breeder's option. And of course, if the variety is really good, it would be really pity that such a variety remains unprotected. That would be more or less everything regarding the procedure. It's quite simple. It's completely harmonized with international norms and standards. And just to mention that There is the experts' advice related to the protection of rights of breeders. So if when certain varieties end the cycle of testing, this is reconsidered. Thank you, Mr. Vujović. Throughout the world, the trade windows are the way for introduction of new topical varieties and for better operation of the producers. Mr. Alexander, what new varieties Fall Creek introduces in Serbia, in Greece, in Romania, and other East European countries?
So we have which includes southern high bush and northern high bush. I forgot to mention previously when you asked about what it will work in Serbia. I'm happy to see. Usually, you should take in trial, like first or 2-3 years, to see how the plants behave. We encourage growers to do that. And later, when you pull a conclusion and you see how the plant behave, because plants in Serbia may behave very well, but the same plant in Romania won't behave, even if it's just a little bit high up north. So this is a process of doing the right thing. So it's Fall Creek collection, and the latest is Sequoia, also southern high bush and northern high bush, Sequoia Crunch, Sequoia Grande. Lately we have Fiesta, and southern high bush, it's Pop Beauty.
Thank you. Gospodine Radovanoviću,
Mr. Radovanović, what is important is that the varieties should be resilient to diseases and pests. But can you immediately identify the differences between high quality planting material and that of unknown origin? I was asked when raspberry will become resilient to everything, and then I said never. However, about Willamette, why is it most represented raspberry in Serbia? Because of the resilience, because of the fruit, because of the sugar quantity. But it is most resilient to the laziness, non-working, because it always gets new shootings year on year, and then the change is on the market, the prices get lower, and then the producers neglect raspberry, and then when the price rises, then they start producing raspberry again. Generally, when you take a look at the plant, you can see whether it's high quality planting material or not. You can look at the root. And as regards to the genetics, we cannot see what the genetics is, but there are some certifying companies that guarantee for the quality of the planting material. However, by visual examination, you can see whether you have some injuries in the plant, whether the root system is poorly developed, and that will show you that this planting material can be potentially poor. But globally, you can just be sure that the planting material certified by distinguished companies, and you have these elite varieties. For example, Netherlands Netherlands in 2017 introduced a new certifying scheme for soft fruit. And I know that our ministry works on adjusting this certifying system because there is a demand for certified material. But, you know, the work in the nursery is very complex, not only in Serbia, but all over the world, because now we are working with plants and we can always make a mistake. I talked with the inspector and he said, I can guarantee for 99% of my planting material, but there is always 1% of the risk. But the planting material marketing here in Serbia, and 3 years ago, we have made an assessment of the planting material in Serbia, together with the experts, with the fruit growers, and we can say that only on raspberry planting material, Serbia loses some 2.5 million euro. And I would like to take this opportunity to call upon the ministry, the law offices, the producers to get together and have a public campaign, because you know you have advertisements online for selling the planting material. For example, we are selling online an Italian variety, and a producer sent to us face shots from and said, oh, wow, how ugly is this? Because they sign the agreement on non-propagation. So this is the rule, not to propagate the plant. And so what can you do? But there are so many problems on internet, and the only recognizable institution online are the nurseries, because we are recognized and the inspection recognizes us, and those unknown sellers of planting material, they do not know, they do not chase after them all over Serbia. So what we believe that we must have a campaign to sell only the planting material that is healthy, that is of guaranteed origin, because we do not want to have illegal nurseries of raspberry and strawberry in our country, because their origin is unknown and the health condition of the planting material is dubious. So once again, I would like to call upon all of you to organize this public campaign so that we promote certified planting material and thus increase our yield. And just imagine how much greater our yield would be with the certified plants. That is just a good idea. Ms. Derić, when we talk about internal platform, how much they contributed to the largest offer and availability of the planting material. I know that your company, your office is a representative of these efforts, but how much have you contributed and what is your advice? Maybe the producers should get better information about these sellers. Yes, they need to refer to the registers. In one conference of breeders' rights, the Amazon was present, and it was really interesting that we saw Amazon and also the Facebook because they are removing advertisement when you prove that you are the holder of the IPRs. And for example, I would like to commend the site Kupujem Prodajem. We have explained to them that they can check all the information in our register that is available online, so they can remove the advertisements that are uploaded in an illegal manner. And my colleagues from all over the world wrote to Facebook. But it's hard because these platforms are protected and you need to try. The regulations are not in place, but I do believe that both Facebook and other platforms would need to change their rules because the practice will make them do that. And so that I can remove the advertisements from Sasomange, from Kupujem Prodajem platforms, for example. But we have cooperation with the parking inspection with regard to the trademarks, so the fruit can be protected as a trademark. And plant variety would be protected, but the fruit itself would be a brand and protected as a brand, and then market inspection would work in your interest because there is a law on specific requirements for the IPR, for patents and so on, but unfortunately this law does not include the breeders' rights. However, the draft does envisage that, and I hope that we will have the breeders' right included in the new law. But inspections can act under other pieces of legislation when they it's not only about the infringement of breeders' rights, it's about declarations, the document on the procurement of the planting material. Many regulations can be violated. So there is something that you can do. It's quite simple the procedure of removing the illegal advertisements, to have these take down notices for removal of advertisements. But why do we have this problem? Because our law on trademarks changed, and if the illegal advertisement is not removed, you can take them to the lawsuit. And if the person was warned and not removed the advertisement, that you can sue him and he is responsible. And it would not be hard to prove that because his responsibilities of quite another nature. He made that advertisement visible. So a lot of effort is made in this regard all over the world, and we are following what is happening. Well, it's not about legislation. Of course, we do have the law on trademarks, but the platforms, the online platforms, have recognized the breeder's right. Well, thank you. Mr. Vujović, we have heard about the procedure and the requirements for the protection of breeders' rights. But what institution in Serbia is responsible for the protection of breeders' rights? You said that it's about the IPR. If somebody wants to protect a variety, what is the address?
I already mentioned that it is the Ministry of Agriculture, the Department for the Plant Protection, and within it is the Ministry of Agriculture that is responsible for the entire procedure. So from the acceptance of the application and the check of the novelties and all the parameters that I've already mentioned, and as they are responsible for the international database exchange, and we use these databases to establish whether a variety is new or already has been protected, or whether there was some previous procedure, etc. So the Ministry of Agriculture, so Department for the Plant Protection, and the Group for the Protection of the Plant Varieties is responsible for that. And I already mentioned those are registers which are available at the internet website of our department, and you can find the information about the applications in the register of the applications and registered applications after the protection of the plant varieties and the rights of the plant breeders, with all the lists of varieties that are protected, whose varieties are protected. We also have one category related to representatives of them, and something that Lidija has mentioned, apart from the name of the variety, which is the mandatory item, in that register of the variety protection, there is a column where you can write the trademark, because if through commercialization, if certain names are used, those are trademarks for the sale of these products or varieties. You can rarely find the right name of the variety, but it's trademark. And only experts and those who deal with that will know what variety it is. If you see the trademark Pink Lady, they know that only two varieties can be or can stand behind this name. So that's important to be said, but this entire story related with the internet sale and the use particularly of the protected varieties in an illegal way. So if we speak about the internet sale or any type of use of the variety which is not protected, then that will not be sectionized. If the variety is on the list, it is accessible to anyone. But if the variety is protected, although it is not the mandatory category, it is good to protect the variety. If you sell it or offer it in a market, just to have the way how you can exercise your right and prevent illegal trade. Zoran mentioned that inspection comes and controls the nurseries, and they work according to the law, starting with a list and certified safe material. The illegal process brings all negativities because they do not use certified material. Here it's not the matter of whether you had an impact on someone's right or violate someone's right. The ways will be found to exercise this right, but the most important thing is the safe and certified material. That's the point. Lidija mentioned the law on special authorization regarding the inspection surveillance in the field of intellectual property protection. This is the control of all levels, national levels that have under its competencies a certain type of intellectual property, whether it is a market inspection or some other. But so far, in this version of the law that is applicable at the moment, the plant varieties were not part of the law many years ago. So these plant varieties were not introduced into the law at that time. What we try to do is that plant varieties become subject matter of this law. And 7 years ago, a new version or draft law started to be made with the plant varieties, but unfortunately, for some reasons of some other nature, that law was just put on the shelf for some period of time. A good news is that in the near future, this law should be part of the process of adoption, and we will continue where we stopped to give the authorities to the phyto inspection to make possible for those whose rights were violated and that they become more useful. We did not have the testing whether the certified material is used, but for the first time there will be the possibility that they would become involved based on the parties that is damaged the request to be part of this. So wish us luck to be successful this time, not only us, but all other ministries that have to prepare this draft law and to complete this work. And it is really the essential need of all the parties in this process, and to finish this, and that we have a law that will be of great use and help to all of us. Thank you very much, Jovan, for all this information. I hope this law will be soon there. Alexander, what are the future blueberry varieties that you have been working on, and have you been thinking about having a nursery here, your nursery here in Serbia?
Test is Fall Creek collection. Of course, Fall Creek is working. This is the main thing what we do. We create plants, and we have new plants, new varieties coming, but it's too early to say something, because this is what we do. We innovate, and we try to adapt from the very early varieties to the very late ones, because the old cultivars, it's a trend, and the old cultivars sooner or later they will all go, because the market will be oversaturated. What I can say now, it's Fall Creek collection and Sequoia, but we do have other varieties which are in trial, still waiting patent to be patented, and when there will be official, we will release it on the market. Here in Serbia, what we're going to do to answer your question, the way I used to work, where I used to work, it's always open to new, because if you don't try, you cannot know.
Absolutely. Thank you. Gospodin Radovanoviću,
Mr. Radovanović, we have been talking all the time, and this is something that we have been hearing, the protection of environment and the less use of pesticides primarily. So can we reduce the use of pesticides with the adequate use of plants? And you mentioned Willamette. Is there such an seedlings in other berry cultivars? So we look for more resistant varieties, more resistant to not only the pests, but also to a climate situation. We have large use of pesticides, so we are looking for the varieties that will be more resistant, so it will be easier for the grower to have the final product and the reduced use of pesticides. So all varieties that have been grown throughout the world, well, primarily they want to have the fruit, which is of good quality, but the plant in general has to be resistant to a strong sun, bacteria and other things. Pesticides have been used in an uncontrolled way. The growers just spray for a long time and with large concentrations. So the new variety will make possible the less use of pesticide. On the other side, you know that we have an issue with water. So the more resilient variety to drought and to the less of water or quantity of water or the surplus of water, some diseases will be, for example, reduced if that variety is more resilient. Which is interesting, we can see that biological means are in a greater use. So the bacteria and insects, etc., are present more and more. But when it comes to the new varieties, they cannot put up with some external conditions, so they have to be protected and covered, and that reduces the pesticides, particularly in greenhouses in our conditions. So better biological protection is provided, but we have to adjust that variety to the internal conditions. So we have the early and late varieties. For example, if we get the early varieties, blueberry at the start of June, and if we just shift it to 7 or 10 days earlier with a new variety, we can sell that fruit at higher price. But if we keep it under the cover, so in a covered space, we can reduce the use of pesticides. So the new varieties have the impact on the environment because the pesticide use will be reduced, as well as fertilizers. Another important thing is the production in substrates or on the soil. Well, on the soil there's a lot of contamination, particularly with specific type of fertilizers. So their growers in Serbia, particularly the strawberry and raspberry growers, just overuse these fertilizers on their soil. There's the control production in substrate is better because the use of fertilizers and pesticides and water is reduced. So with new varieties and new technology, the environmental protection will be at a higher level. Thank you very much. I've got to ask Alexander, what is that we can expect from the future varieties regarding the environment, like the acidity of substrate or the soil?
blueberries in general, it is an acidic plant, and we know that. What we are trying to work is the shape of the fruit, the timing of the harvest, and pest and disease resistant. To be honest, I can't answer anything about acidity or anything, but if you choose the right medium, growing medium, preferentially is substrate, because you can manage it and you can control it way better than the soil. And of course, it depends where you are situated, what is your water background, EC, pH, and all this. I don't have any information about Fall Creek focusing on acidity of the plant, to be honest. Yeah.
Ok, thank you. I s obzirom da je tema narednog panela tržište, odnosno...
Given that the next topic, next session topic will be the market of the berries, Mrs. Derić led end this panel with a new marketplace, which has a considerable offer of the seedlings, apart from other goods and produces. On the other side, it requires a different approach in the protection of the plant breeders. Let's say a couple of words about that. Yes, in the since we do not have the law on the special authorization, so we try in practice to apply some other regulations. We have the law on advertising, which sanctions the fraud. If you fraudulently represent yourself, and we can apply the law on advertising and some other laws on trade, and not to go into details about that. And I mentioned already that platforms accept registered recognize the rights that have been registered in the Department for the Protection of Plants, and in the domain of removal of these advertisements from the internet, some kind of informal protection already exists. But every case is tackled separately. But you are a detective. In an investigation, you have to see who the other side is. So I would like to stress the good collaboration with the market inspection, so we can protect the fruit as a trademark. But it is not used sufficiently by the plant breeders, at least here in Serbia. They have one hologram. So, if, for example, if you, apply for a strengthened surveillance, if you submit the barcode of a purchased product or seedlings, because the seedlings are delivered, normally now they can, for example, to determine the size of that trade, and you decide which type of proceeding you have to initiate. If it is a small producer, and based on the info, it is not so significant, you start to initiate some misdemeanor proceedings, and to adjust it to a natural person's size. But a natural person can have several profiles on internet and sell through various platforms, and it's really an unusual work in searching and researching this when inspection applies or uses a software. So in the world, the collection of information is quite present in order to adequately process the disputable plant. It's not easy, but technical tools help us in that work. So if we can just sum up our panel, and it is that all growers who decide to plant the certified and good quality material, they have to be cautious about selecting this material and to get informed and to get the resilient material. Thank you very much. Thank you all panelists for sharing all this information with all these people who are quite interested in this field. And I would like to thank the organizers us for enabling us and this information which are not easily available to all people dealing with this, to get them from great interlocutors and to have a good opportunity for sharing their experience. And I would like to thank my panelists for taking part in this first panel. Now I give the floor to my colleague. That will be all from us. Thank you.